My parents threw me out at 17 with a garbage bag and $60 because I refused to abort my baby. They told me I had chosen my path. I chose it all right. I chose community college at night, promotions, a paid-off house, and a six-figure salary. 24 years of silence. Then they called, not to apologize, to ask for $80,000. And they had absolutely no idea what was coming for them. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss a story because we post the kind of content that will keep you up at night in the best way possible. Now let's get into it. I'm 41 years old. I'm a project manager at a mid-sized logistics firm in Ohio. I own my home outright. I have a 14-year-old son who is, without question, the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I have parents who looked at their pregnant 17-year-old daughter and decided she was someone else's problem. Not asked me to leave. Not sat me down for a conversation. They packed a garbage bag with my clothes, handed me $60 from a kitchen drawer, and my mother, had written a note on actual paper that said I had chosen my path. I found it tucked under the bag handle like a receipt. I showed up at my school counselor's office the next morning because I had nowhere else to go. The counselor contacted a social worker. The social worker placed me with a foster family, a retired couple in the next county who treated me with more basic human decency in 8 months than my parents had in 17 years. I had my son in a county hospital with my foster mother holding my hand. My biological parents didn't call. Didn't send a card. Nothing. Radio silence like I'd never existed. Fast forward through the hard years. Community college while working night shifts at a shipping warehouse. A promotion. A certification program. Another promotion. By 35, I had a paid-off house, a six-figure salary, and a retirement account my financial advisor called aggressively healthy. I built everything I had from a garbage bag and $60. My parents, it turned out, had built nothing. The first contact came when I was 38. My brother, who was 8 when I left, and who I'd cautiously reconnected with once he turned 18, called and said, "Mom wants to talk to you." About what? I asked. She didn't say exactly. Just said it's important. Important like an apology. Or important like a favor? He was quiet for a moment. I honestly don't know. I told him I'd think about it. I thought about it for 3 months, and then said no. My therapist, yes, I have one. Yes, she is worth every single penny. Backed that decision without hesitation. Then my father called directly. I didn't recognize the number, so I picked up. "We need to talk," he said. Like 24 years hadn't happened. Like he was calling me down for dinner. "Okay," I said. "Talk. Not like this. In person. We're in a tough spot, and your family. You stopped being my family when you handed me a garbage bag." He actually sighed. Like I was overreacting. That was a long time ago. We made mistakes. We know that. Do you? Because I haven't heard the word sorry yet. A pause. "We're sorry. Okay? We're sorry. Now can we please meet?" I said I'd think about it. I did not meet with them. What I did do was call my brother and get the full picture. My parents had spent the last decade making catastrophically bad financial decisions. My father had sunk their retirement savings into a franchise opportunity that collapsed. My mother had co-signed a loan for a family friend who defaulted. They'd refinanced their house twice. They were 63 and 65, both dealing with health issues, sitting on more debt than equity. "How much are they looking for?" I asked. "I think they need about $80,000 to keep the house," my brother said quietly. I said nothing for a long moment. "I know," he said. I know. Here is where the moral dilemma lived. There was a part of me, a small, tired part, that felt something when I imagined them losing their house. Not love exactly. More like the ghost of what love should have been. But then I thought about a 17-year-old girl standing on a school counselor's doorstep. I thought about labor and delivery with no family in the room. I thought about my son asking me, at 6 years old, why he didn't have grandparents like his friends did. I did not say yes. I said I needed time. That was my first mistake, not because I owed them an answer, but because it gave them time to get creative. And they were far more creative in their desperation than I ever anticipated. The entitlement I'd grown up with hadn't mellowed. It had evolved. It had sharpened. And it was about to come at me in ways I hadn't seen coming. The first dirty trick arrived in my mailbox 2 weeks later. It was a letter, handwritten from my mother, 4 pages long. 1 page of selective childhood memories, all the good times, she called them. 1 page of carefully worded almost apologies that somehow never apologized for anything specific. 1 page about their financial situation framed as a tragedy happening to them rather than consequences of their own decisions. And 1 final page that ended with, "You have so much. We just need a little. Is that really so hard? Is that really so hard?" I read that line 4 times. I brought it to my therapist. She read it carefully and said, "This letter is designed to make you feel guilty for having survived." "I know," I said. "It reframes your success as selfishness." "I know that too. What are you going to do?" "Nothing for now. And watch what they do next." What they did next was contact my son. My 14-year-old son, who had never met them, who knew they existed the way you know a country you've never visited, abstractly, distantly. They found him on Instagram. My mother sent him a direct message introducing herself as his grandmother, saying she'd always wanted to know him, attaching a photo of herself looking frail and soft, and ending with, "Your mom and I had a falling out when she was young. I hope someday you'll give me a chance." My son screenshot the entire conversation and brought it to me immediately. "Mom," he said, holding out his phone. "Is this your mom?" I looked at the message. Something cold moved through me. "Yes," I said. "She says you had a falling out. She threw me out of the house when I was pregnant with you." He stared at the phone, then at me, then back at the phone. "She messaged me to get to you." "Yes." That's so manipulative. "Welcome to my childhood," I said. Neither of us laughed, but both of us needed it. I had my son block both of them from every account that evening. Then I sent my father a text, the first communication I'd initiated, that said, "Do not contact my son again. That is not a request." He replied in 2 minutes. "We just wanted to know our grandson. You're keeping him from his family." I put my phone face down and walked away. The second dirty trick came through my brother. Without telling him what they were doing, my parents had positioned him as their emotional intermediary. My brother called me genuinely distressed, because he'd only just realized he'd been set up. "They told me to call you and tell you Dad's health is getting worse," he said. "And I'm doing it, but I need you to know they specifically instructed me to say that, so I feel like a guilt delivery service right now." "You are," I said. "I hate this." "Is his health actually worse?" "High blood pressure. Some joint issues. Not nothing, but he's not dying." "Okay. Here's all I ask. Keep talking to me like a normal person. Don't carry their messages." He agreed. 2 weeks later, they pulled a move that genuinely stopped me cold. They hired an attorney to send me a letter. It was not a lawsuit. They had no grounds for a lawsuit. What it was, and I want to be precise, was a carefully constructed document citing filial responsibility laws and suggesting I had a moral and potentially legal obligation to assist my parents given their financial circumstances. It was designed to look terrifying to someone who didn't know better. It was designed to make me write a check just to make the threat disappear. I forwarded the letter to my attorney before the end of business that day. "This is a scare tactic," she told me when she called. "Ohio's filial piety statute has not been enforced in decades. They have no case here. So what do I do? You let me respond. And in my response, I will make absolutely clear that any further contact of this nature will be treated as harassment." "Do it," I said. "And document everything, the Instagram message, the letters, the phone calls, all of it." "Are you thinking about going on offense?" she asked. I considered it for about 3 seconds. "I'm thinking about being very, very prepared." The attorney's response went out within the week. I imagine the moment they received it. I won't pretend I felt bad about it. Because what they didn't know, what they had absolutely no way of knowing, was that while they were running their escalating pressure campaign, I had been doing something they never expected. I had been gathering information. And what I found changed the entire shape of the story. My brother, now fully aware he'd been used as a pawn, started talking to me more openly. In one of those conversations, almost as a casual aside, he said something that made me go completely still. You know they still have that property on Cedar Road, right? What property? The lot. Grandpa left it to both of them when he died. It's been empty for like 15 years. That whole area developed. I think it's worth something now. I opened my laptop while we were still talking. Let me explain what I found. My parents had approached me claiming they needed $80,000 to save their home. They were painting themselves as destitute. They had sent an attorney's letter implying legal obligation. They had contacted my minor child on social media to manipulate me emotionally. The county property records showed a 1.4-acre lot on Cedar Road, assessed at approximately $340,000. No liens. Owned free and clear. They were not broke. They were asset-rich and cash-poor, but they had a solution sitting right there, untouched, because selling land requires effort. Writing a guilt letter to the daughter you threw out costs nothing. I called my attorney again. They own a piece of land worth over $300,000, I said. A pause. And they've been representing themselves as unable to meet their financial obligations? In writing. Repeatedly. Another pause longer. That is a very interesting detail. I thought so too. The third dirty trick arrived before I could make my next move. Through a mutual family acquaintance, I found out my mother had started telling people, extended family, church friends, anyone willing to listen, that I had abandoned my parents in their time of need. That I'd become cold. That I'd turn my back on family. She was running a full reputation campaign, building social pressure, hoping the Whisper Network would squeeze me into compliance. My aunt, my father's sister, someone I'd kept loose contact with, called me awkwardly and said, I don't want to be in the middle of this, but people are saying things and I thought you should know. Thank you, I said. Has anyone mentioned that they threw me out at 17 while I was pregnant? Silence. No, she said quietly. That hasn't come up. Interesting, I said. It might be worth coming up. I didn't instruct her to do anything. The truth, given to the right person, moves on its own. Within a week, the framing had shifted. My parents were no longer the abandoned elders. They were the people who had kicked out their pregnant teenager. The church crowd found that detail significantly more troubling than the version my mother had been selling. But I wasn't relying on gossip for my real move. That was just a side effect. My actual plan had 3 parts, and each one was already in motion. Part 1. I contacted a real estate attorney familiar with the Cedar Road area. Not to buy anything, just to document, on record, the lot's value, zoning, and development potential. I wanted paperwork establishing that this asset existed and was substantial. Part 2. My attorney sent a direct formal letter to my parents, not through another lawyer, just a clear, documented communication, laying out a complete timeline. Every letter, every phone call, the Instagram message to my son, the filial responsibility letter, all of it, dated, documented. The letter stated unambiguously that I had zero legal obligation to provide financial assistance, that I was fully aware of the Cedar Road property and its assessed value, and that any further contact for the purpose of financial pressure or reputational damage would result in a harassment claim being filed. Part 3 is the one that actually finished it. I contacted a financial advisor contracted with the county's Elder Services Office, a legitimate state resource that helps seniors navigate financial hardship. I filed a referral for my parents, not as a weapon, as a genuine solution. I wanted their situation resolved, just not by me, and not on their fraudulent terms. The Elder Services advisor contacted them directly. In that meeting, my parents had to account for every asset they held. They had to disclose the Cedar Road lot. They had to sit across from a professional and explain, out loud, why they had not considered selling a $340,000 piece of land before pursuing their estranged daughter with guilt campaigns and attorney letters. From what my brother later told me, that meeting was deeply uncomfortable, as it should have been. The advisor recommended they list the Cedar Road property, consolidate their remaining debt, and apply for a state mortgage assistance program they qualified for, but had never looked into. Real solutions. Available the entire time. My parents listed the Cedar Road lot 4 months after that meeting. It sold in 6 weeks for $327,000. After clearing their mortgage balance and outstanding debts, they netted roughly $190,000. My brother told me they were stable, not comfortable, not set for life, but stable, which is more than they deserved and exactly what I'd arranged for them to find on their own. The reputation campaign dried up the moment the full story circulated. I didn't fight it. I didn't call anyone to correct the record. The truth had better reach than anything I could have organized. My father made one final attempt at contact about 2 months after the land sale. He called my brother and asked him to relay a message. They wouldn't reach out to me directly anymore, but they wanted me to know they appreciated the elder services referral. I told my brother, "You can tell him I didn't do it for them." "Then what did you do it for?" he asked. "Because I didn't want to spend the next 20 years feeling guilty about consequences they created. This way, they had options. Someone helped them find those options. My conscience is clean and my door is closed." He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "You know, for someone who got handed a garbage bag at 17, you turned out remarkably well-adjusted." "Therapy," I said. "Aggressive, consistent, expensive therapy." He laughed. I laughed. It felt like the first genuinely light moment in months. About a month after everything settled, my son asked me something while we were making dinner together. He didn't look up from the cutting board when he said it. "Mom, do you think they're actually sorry?" I thought about it honestly. I think they're sorry things didn't go the way they wanted. That's not the same as being sorry for what they did. "No," I said. "It's not." He nodded slowly, filing that somewhere. "That kid is going to be more than okay." Here's what I'll leave you with. Some of you reading this are sitting with your own version of this story. Maybe it's parents. Maybe it's a sibling. Maybe it's someone else entirely who decided your success was their resource. The entitlement doesn't disappear when people get older and desperate. It gets more creative. It finds new angles. It uses the people you love as leverage. It rewrites history and sells the revised version to whoever will buy it. What you owe someone is not determined by blood alone. It is determined by conduct. I didn't save my parents. I removed myself as their solution and pointed them toward real ones. Those are completely different things, and knowing the difference is what finally let me breathe. The garbage bag was 24 years ago. Everything since then has been mine. Every promotion, every mortgage payment, every school pickup, every quiet evening in a house I own outright mine. They chose their path too. It just didn't include me. If this story hit you somewhere real, go ahead and subscribe because unlike my parents, this channel actually delivers on what it promises and never sends you a guilt letter afterward.